There are a number of tasks that you can perform from your Azure portal. And the Azure portal allows you to manage your resources in an efficient way. And you can also use your command line interface, the CLI, to do the same with even more efficiency. So I'm going to go over how to do just that, particularly focusing on virtual machines. So we're going to start by creating a resource group. And the resource group is going to allow us, it's going to be the container for our virtual machine. So once you've hit create, you give it a name. I'm going to name it JS Group 1. I'll keep it in the US East region. And I'm going to click review and create. You can see here that the validation passed. I'll click create. And at the top right corner, it tells you that the resource group was created and you can actually go to the resource. Okay. I'm going to go back to home and I'm going to now create a virtual machine. Click create virtual machine. For resource group, I'm going to link it to that JS group 1 resource group that I just created. I'll give my virtual machine a name. I'm just going to call it VM Lab 1. Keep it in the East region. I'm not going to, so I'm going to keep the redundancy as no infrastructure redundancy required because this is a lab. Keep this as default, and I will change this to Windows Server 2022. Actually, no, I'll just leave it to 2019. Size will be standard. Username, so you'll create a username. Go ahead and choose one for yours and a password. I would say to use a passphrase that's complex. So a mixture of numbers, characters. We're going to leave this as is, and we're going to click next. We don't need premium. We will change this to standard because this is a lab. The defaults will remain the same. Next. We don't need accelerated networking because this is, again, a lab. The rest will remain the same. We'll disable monitoring because it's a lab. And then we're going to go through and keep the remainder of the options defaulted. So right now it's reviewing and creating the virtual machine. That'll take a minute. Now you can see that the validation has passed. So we're going to click create. Again, up here in the right corner, it tells you the process is going through. Right now, deployment is in progress. So it's deploying our VM, and it'll take just a minute to complete that deployment. You can see that resources are being added as it's completing that deployment. And now you can see that the deployment was complete. So if I go to the resource, here's my virtual machine that I have created. Okay. The great thing is that you can actually also do this from the command line. The CLI allows you to create and manage your Azure resources with efficiency. So we are going to do the same thing through our command line. So once you have created it, I'm going to go ahead and maximize this. And I'm just giving it a moment to connect. Awesome. So once it's connected, we'll start by creating the resource group and then we'll create the virtual machine. So to create that resource group, I'm going to do AZ group create, give it a name. So I'm going to call it JS group 2. And then I need to give it a location. And I'll keep it in the East US. Hit enter. Okay, this shows that it was succeeded. And so if we go back to check our resource group, right now it's not showing up. And so it takes a minute. You may want to just refresh it a couple times, but you can see now that the JS group 2 resource group was created. We're going to go ahead and add our VM. I'm going to connect it to JS group 2. And we're going to name it VM Lab 2. And then the image we use will be Windows 2019 Data Center. Asking me for my password, so I'll go ahead and enter that. Confirm it. It is running it. We can see that our VM was created. It's running within our resource group, JS Group 2. So if we go to our Azure portal, I'm going to go to VMs to show you that they were actually created. And so here you can see VM Lab 2. The last thing I'm going to do is go to our VM. And during our session today, Ryan showed us how to put a lock on our VM. So we're going to go to VM Lab 2. We're going to go down under settings and choose locks. And right now there are no locks, but we want to add a lock. I'm going to call this read only lock, and then going to insert the same here in notes. And this is going to, it's a security measure to just ensure that, well, one of the things it ensures is that your VM in this case will be able to be read only, and it will not be able to be deleted. So if I click OK, and if I go to that VM and actually try to delete it, let's apply a forced delete. And our error will show us that because of the lock, I'm unable to delete this virtual machine. So again, that's a safety measure if you want to make sure that your VM cannot be deleted. So those were a few things we went over and that I've been just doing some hands-on on. Remember that a resource group is like the container that holds any resources related to that particular solution or instance. And the virtual machine is a way to go ahead and complete many of your workloads.